Alright, I'm bored. Let's rank every number one hit from 1980. The 70s had just wrapped up, disco was on its way out, new wave was on the rise, and pop music was all over the map, in the best way possible. Some of the biggest names in business were topping the charts, from Queen and Blondie to Kenny Rogers and Barbra Streisand. And tucked between the love songs, the funky grooves, and the synthy surprises were some of the most unforgettable number one hits ever pressed to vinyl. Round and round, upside down. So let's rank every single song that hit number one on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1980. Some of these you'll certainly remember word for word. Others might just surprise you. Alright, hit it. Do That To Me One More Time, Captain and Teneal. Alright, starting off with a song that hit number one February 16th, 1980. Tony Teneal's smooth, intimate vocals and Daryl Captain Dragon's understated keyboard work, it made this soft rock ballad a late-night radio favorite. It became their second and final number one hit, following Yes, Love Will Keep Us Together in 1975. By early 1980, disco was fading, and this slow, romantic track stood out. Billboard called it a tender ballad with just enough sensuality to keep it interesting. Teneal later said she recorded the vocals in a single take. She said, quote, "It just felt right, like telling someone exactly how you feel." And look, I know it's my least favorite number one hit from 1980, but they're all number one hits. I mean, the song earned a Grammy nomination for Best Pop Vocal Performance and stayed on the Hot 100 for like 19 weeks. But it didn't redefine the charts. However, it did become one of the era's definitive soft rock love songs, and it's still a staple on adult contemporary playlists even decades later. Magic, Olivia Newton-John. Now this song was just about everywhere in the summer of 1980. You'd hear it drifting out of beach radios, echoing through the mall, or playing while you were flipping through records at the local Woolworths. Olivia Newton-John had a way of sounding both dreamy and totally in control, and Magic was just a perfect example. It came from the very polarizing Xanadu soundtrack, which, let's be honest, was kind of a mess, but the song itself was pure pop gold. Even if you never saw the roller disco madness of the movie, this song still probably takes you back. There's something soft and glowing about it, like a sun-soaked memory that never quite fades. Olivia's voice floated over those shimmering synths like a breeze, and the whole thing just felt easy. Out of all the number ones that year, this one captured that summer feeling better than most. So, while it might not pack the same punch as the heavier hitters, it earns its place with sheer mood alone. Please Don't Go, KC and the Sunshine Band. This one hit number one in the very beginning of 1980, January 5th to be exact. KC and the Sunshine Band, known for disco anthems like Shake Your Booty and That's the Way I Like It. They kinda surprised fans with this slow, emotional ballad. Released in July of '79, it climbed steadily for months before hitting number one in the first week of '80. And it became their fifth and final number one single. Billboard called it a heartfelt plea that trades the dance floor for the bedroom. And KC later said, quote, "I just wanted to show we could do more than disco. It was about feeling, not just the beat." Please Don't Go also has a quirky footnote. In 1992, an Australian group, KWS, covered it, and it topped the UK charts for 5 weeks, introducing the track to an entirely new audience. But for true fans of KC and the Sunshine Band, the original, of course, stands as the moment KC traded glitter for sincerity and closed the book on their chart-topping era. It might not be one of the biggest, boldest hits from the year, but it stuck with people for a reason. Upside Down, Diana Ross. Soon as that bass kicks in, you know what's coming. It's Upside Down, and it still sounds just as slick as it did in 1980. Diana Ross had already been a legend for years by then, but this song gave her a whole new sound and a whole new crowd. Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards from Chic were behind it, and man, they brought the funk. It hit number one in September and held on for 4 straight weeks, making it one of the biggest solo hits of her career. Round and round, upside down. For fans who grew up with her Supreme era ballads, this sure was a curveball, but a really fun one. The groove never quits, and even the lyrics are about being spun around in love. It makes you want to dance, not mope. I remember this one blasting from car radios and mall speakers, and it always had this cool, confident energy to it. Out of all the number ones that year, this one's still near the top of the stack when it comes to songs that just feel good the second they start. Coming up, Paul McCartney and Wings. Now this one hit number 1 June 28th, 1980. And the studio version of Coming Up was quirky, synth-driven, and unlike anything most bands expected from Paul McCartney. But in the US, it was the live version recorded in Glasgow in December of 1979 that just took off. And it was that cut, credited to Paul McCartney and Wings, that hit number 1 in late June and stayed there for 3 weeks. Now, Paul played all instruments on the studio track, but the live performance had a looser, warmer feel. John Lennon even praised it in a Playboy interview, saying, quote, "That's a good piece of work. I like the freaky studio version, but the live one really swings." The music video featuring McCartney dressed as multiple characters, including a Buddy Holly lookalike, was a staple on the early MTV era. And it showcased Paul McCartney's sense of humor, which I love. I'm a big McCartney fan. And no, it's not the most emotional hit of 1980, but it proved McCartney was still willing to experiment and still able to top the charts a decade after the Beatles. Woman in Love, Barbra Streisand. You could not miss this one in 1980. It was everywhere. Barbra Streisand sang it like her heart was about to burst, or like she was trying to burst ours, which mission accomplished. It was written by the Gibb brothers, yeah, the Bee Gees, and it had all their signature drama built in. Big strings, slow build, and that emotional punch right at the chorus. The thing hit number 1 in October and held the spot for 3 weeks. And I think, even if you weren't a big Streisand fan, you had to admit she could sing the heck out of a ballad. This one was all about giving everything to love, even if it meant getting your heart broken. Maybe a little heavy-handed for some, sure, but if you were feeling lonely or lovesick in 1980, this one probably hit you right where it hurt. It was big, bold, and classic Babs. Funky Town, Lips, Inc. This one was released in March of 1980, but it hit number 1 on May 31st. And then Funky Town just happened. It became disco's final major chart triumph. It hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 4 weeks. Lips, Inc. was essentially producer Steven Greenberg with vocalist Cynthia Johnson, both who are from Minneapolis. Built around an infectious synth riff and a robotic "Won't You Take Me to Funky Town" hook, the track felt futuristic at the time. Billboard called it a state-of-the-art disco record with new wave flash, and I think that's why it blew up. Johnson's soulful delivery over the icy production helped it cross over to pop, R&B, and dance charts worldwide. It topped the charts in over a dozen countries and became a roller rink staple. And of course, the song's been featured in countless films, commercials, and TV shows, cementing it as one of the most recognizable hits of the era. Silly? Maybe, but Funky Town was disco's glittering last stand before the 80s sound took over. And it still gets dance floors moving even 45 plus years later. Sailing, Christopher Cross. This song just floated. The first time you heard Sailing, it probably felt like someone opened a window and let the breeze in. And then Christopher Cross came out of nowhere with that smooth voice and mellow sound, and suddenly everyone was relaxing just a bit more. Wind is right, you can find the joy. The song hit number 1 in August of 1980, right at the thick of summer, and it could not have fit in the season any better. It was not flashy, no big chorus, no dramatic build-up, just gentle guitars, soft harmonies, and that feeling of drifting away from your problems. A lot of folks laughed at it later, calling it yacht rock, but back then, it was peaceful. It gave you a break from the noise, whether you were lying on the couch with a fan blowing or driving with the windows down. This one took you somewhere calm, and sometimes that's exactly what a hit needs to do. Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Queen. This one hit number 1 on February 23rd, 1980, and it was written by Freddie Mercury as a tribute to Elvis Presley. Crazy Little Thing Called Love. It was recorded in '79 during the sessions in Munich, and Mercury composed it entirely on guitar, an instrument he rarely played. He kept the arrangement deliberately simple, with a rockabilly groove straight out of the '50s. This song was monumental. It became Queen's first US #1, topping the chart for 4 weeks. Cashbox praised its infectious rockabilly beat and Mercury's smooth swagger, while Rolling Stone called it a clever nod to Presley without descending into parody. The track's stripped-back style was a departure from Queen's usual layered productions, but its sing-along hook and playful energy made it an instant crowd favorite. And the song remains a staple in Queen's live set lists and one of their most enduring hits. Lady, Kenny Rogers. Every time this came on the radio, people stopped what they were doing. Seriously, Kenny Rogers had a way of singing that felt personal, like he was speaking straight to you. And how could you go wrong with the star power behind this? Lady, written and produced by Lionel Richie, was a total powerhouse ballad that blended country soul with pop smoothness. It hit #1 in November 1980 and held the spot for, God, that thing was on top for a while. I think it was 6 entire weeks, even though it felt like it stayed atop for the rest of the year.
You have made me what I am.
Either way, it was the longest any song stayed at #1 that year. I mean, the song was everywhere, every wedding reception just swaying under dim lights like the rest of the world had faded away. There was something so sincere about it, and everything just felt right. No gimmicks, no flash, just pure emotion. And it was also a big deal for Lionel Richie, actually. This was his first big writing hit for someone else, and it pretty much launched the next phase of his career. 2 icons, one unforgettable song, and one that still hits you right in the heart. It's still rock and roll to me, Billy Joel. Alright, summer of 1980, this one hit #1 July 19th. Billy Joel's first US #1 single, It's Still Rock and Roll to Me, was a tongue-in-cheek jab at the music industry trends. Released in May, the track mocked the idea that new wave and other genre labels were anything more than marketing.
Maybe I should buy some old tab collars. Welcome back to the age of jive.
Billy Joel told Rolling Stone, "There's always a new fashion, but it's the same song." Built on its rockabilly groove and punchy horns, it stood out on the radio that summer. And it topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 2 weeks and was certified platinum. Critics praised its wit and hooks. Cashbox called it a clever commentary wrapped in an irresistible beat. The song earned Joel a Grammy nomination for Best Male Rock Vocal Performance, and it remains one of his signature hits, equal parts satire and sing-along anthem. Rock With You, Michael Jackson. Some songs, man, they just glide, and Rock With You was as smooth as it gets. And Michael Jackson was just 21 years old when this hit #1 in January 1980. I'll say that one more time, 21. But he already sounded like he had the entire world figured out, and I think he kinda did. He was working since he was like 4. The song was produced by the great Quincy Jones and written by Rod Temperton, the same team that would later give us Thriller, so talk about foreshadowing on top of everything else. And you can absolutely hear that silky precise touch all over it. The groove was gentle, the vocals strong, and the whole thing just floated. I mean, that's the word that comes to mind. It just floated like a dream. Back then, the song played at every school dance, every roller rink, every quiet moment where you were working up the nerve to ask someone to dance. It was romantic without being sappy, cool without trying too hard. And for a lot of us, it was the first sign that Michael wasn't just a kid from the Jackson 5 anymore. He was stepping into something bigger, and man did he deliver. This one sounds brand new every time it comes on. Escape, the Pina Colada song, Rupert Holmes. This one hit #1 December 22nd, 1979, and January 12th, 1980. Rupert Holmes's lighthearted tale of mistaken romance, better known as the Pina Colada song, is one of the few singles to hit #1 in 2 different decades. The lyrics follow a man answering a personal ad, only to discover it was placed by his own partner. Rupert later admitted he nearly changed the drink reference, saying, quote, "I originally wrote If You Like Humphrey Bogart, but Pina Colada sang better." While musically straightforward, its breezy groove and quirky storytelling made it instantly memorable. And the single has since become a pop culture staple, covered, parodied, and referenced everywhere from The Simpsons to Guardians of the Galaxy. Love it or roll your eyes at it, those opening lines still pull people in for the full 3 minutes. Call Me Blondie. This one came charging out of the gate like it had something to prove, and I gotta be honest, it kinda did. Because Call Me was Blondie's follow-up to Heart of Glass, and you know how hard the pressure can hit after releasing, well, a hit. But in true Blondie fashion, yet another great song cemented the fact that they weren't just a punky New York band, they could flat out own the charts. Call Me was used as the theme for American Gigolo, and it had that pulsing synthy beat paired with Debbie Harry's fierce, cool as ice vocals. It hit number 1 in the spring and stayed there for 6 weeks, the longest of any song in 1980, or well, tied with Lady. And on top of that though, it also got the distinction of topping Billboard's 1980 year-end chart of pop singles. So yeah, it was the best of the best, says Billboard. Debbie Harry wasn't just singing, she was commanding attention. And for tons of fans, this felt like the sound of a new decade, edgy, slick, and confident. If we're talking impact and energy, this one's gotta land high in the mix. It captured a moment and it still hits hard today. And that's why it's Do You Remember's 4th greatest number 1 hit from 1980. Another one bites the dust, Queen. This one hit number 1 in October of 1980. Written by bassist John Deacon, Another One Bites the Dust was Queen at their funkiest, and it paid off. Inspired by disco and funk, especially Chic's Bernard Edwards, Deacon crafted the song's instant recognizable bass line, layered with hand claps, sparse guitar, and a relentless beat. And then Freddie Mercury slid into it with a cool, almost menacing vocal, proving he could handle funk as effortlessly as arena rock. The single topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks and became Queen's biggest US hit. Michael Jackson, after seeing the band live, urged them to release it. He reportedly told them, "You'd be crazy not to put that out." And yeah, they would have been, because it went on to dominate not only the pop charts, but also R&B and dance charts, which is something few rock bands have ever managed to do. In 1981, it won an American Music Award for Favorite Rock Single and earned a Grammy nomination for Best Rock Performance. The song's tough, stripped-down groove made it a fixture at sporting events, in films, and even pro wrestling entrances. Even decades later, it remains one of Queen's most streamed tracks, and a masterclass in how to reinvent a band's sound without losing its identity. Just like Starting Over, John Lennon. This one just hits different. When Starting Over first came out in, I want to say October, it felt like a happy surprise. John Lennon was back after 5 years away from music, sounding hopeful, relaxed, even playful. But after his tragic death in December, the song suddenly carried a whole different kind of weight. It climbed to number 1 just weeks before he passed, and then stayed there through the end of the year and into 81. And for a lot of folks, it became more than just a hit, it was a goodbye.
It'll be just like starting over.
Musically, it had that retro 50s feel Lennon loved, like something Elvis might have cut with a little polish from 1980. It wasn't his most daring song, but it was warm, honest, and full of life, exactly what fans had been missing and what they so badly needed when he passed. And when the news broke, suddenly every line felt heavier, like he had known something we didn't. When you look back at the year's chart toppers, this one's got the most heart, no question. It means more now than it ever did then. And number 1, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, Pink Floyd. This one hit number 1 March 29th, and if you were a teen in 1980, Another Brick in the Wall felt like your personal anthem. Rebellious, moody, and unapologetically different. This wasn't just a song, it was a cultural movement. With its unforgettable chant, "We don't need no education," it sparked outrage. It got banned in many schools, and it ignited fierce debates about authority and conformity. And that controversy, well, it only fueled its rise to the top, where it stayed for 4 weeks. Surprisingly, Pink Floyd's only US number 1 single. The track's hypnotic bass line, eerie guitar, and most memorably the haunting children's choir created a sound that was dark, unsettling, and powerful all at once. Music critic Stephen Thomas Erlewine called it, quote, "a rare moment when rock and political statement came together with unforgettable results." So what made it the best #1 hit of 1980? It wasn't just the music, it was how the song captured the spirit of a generation feeling trapped and misunderstood. It broke through genres and fan bases, resonating with rock fans and casual listeners alike. Even today, it remains a bold statement about rebellion and control. In terms of cultural weight, controversy, and sheer musical presence, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 towers over the year's other chart toppers. An anthem that stopped people in their tracks and refused to let go. And there you have it. Every song that climbed to the top in 1980, each one carrying its own sound, its own story, and its own little place in the soundtrack of our lives. Whether you were grooving at the roller rink, slow dancing in the kitchen, or just soaking it all through a pair of puffy headphones, these hits made the year unforgettable. Some haven't aged a day. Others, well, let's just say they're a little stuck in their moment. But that's just another part of the fun, you know? So, now let's open the debate. Which of our songs holds up the best today? What was the worst #1 hit from 1980, and what was the best? And hey, I'm not even that big of a Pink Floyd fan, I just think that song's incredible and is the best #1 hit from 1980. Do you agree, or am I daft? Get in the comments and tell me your thoughts. If you enjoyed our rundown, please hit that thumbs up icon, it really helps our channel a ton. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a trip down memory lane or a dance to the past. But most importantly, from my entire team here at Do You Remember, I'm Nostalgic Nick, signing off and putting another dime in the jukebox.